Chapter 22. You are listening at novelfull.audio. At lunchtime, students gather in the auditorium and sit in small groups. Aaron peeled an orange for Abe while eating the bread. You really treat your cat very well. Draco laughed. Don't underestimate it, this guy can at least rank among the top 4 in our family, and in the pet world, its pedigree can also be among the best. Aaron said very seriously, boom. An explosion sounded suddenly, startling everyone, but when he looked over curiously, he couldn't help laughing. I saw a first-year freshman with a black face, holding a magic wand in his right hand, motionless, as if he was frozen in place, and in front of him was a cup that was poured on the table and a spell book. It is not difficult to guess that something went wrong when this guy tested the spell. When the mail arrived, hundreds of owls flew into the auditorium to choose their owners and delivered the letters or packages to them. Draco's package was various brands of candy. He opened 2 and put them on Abe's dinner plate. Abe sniffed, then narrowed his eyes into crescents and gave Draco a kind smile. Thanks. It's nothing, it's the first time I've seen such a cute cat. Draco said, by the way, Aaron, what's your package? Hearing this, Aaron also looked down at his package. He can be sure that this package is definitely not from his parents, and the only one who can send him the package is Jeans. Thinking of this, Aaron was full of gratitude. What is a loved one? This is it. But after opening it, his face darkened. There were 2 things in the package, a newspaper and a chicken leg. Obviously the newspaper was his, and the chicken legs were of course for the growing baby dragon. The most hateful thing is that there is a note under the chicken leg, which clearly states that Abe will be given healthy and nutritious meals every few days in the future, asking him to pay attention not to feed it too much. When Draco saw it, he couldn't help but sneered. I believe it now, this cat is really not ordinary gold. Aaron, in the afternoon there was a flight class, which was equivalent to the physical education class in the Muggle world, and it was also the class that almost all students looked forward to the most. But Aaron didn't look forward to this class very much, because it made no difference to him whether he learned this class or not. Signing in at Hogwarts gets a lot of magic points. According to this rate, he can get a magic carpet in up to 10 days. Who would ride a broom with such a tall flying prop? Besides, when Abe grows up a bit, his flying speed will be faster than any magic item. Isn't he good at riding a dragon? Abe, who was lying on the lawn basking in the sun, shivered suddenly. Professor Hua-Chi with short gray hair came over. Good afternoon, students. Good afternoon, Mrs. Hooch. Professor Hua-Chi walked up to all the students. The first flight lesson is starting now. What are you waiting for? Everyone stand on the left side of the broomstick. All right, move faster. The students immediately followed suit and stood by the broom one after another. Professor Hua-Chi stretched out his right hand and explained, put your right hand on top of the broom, and then say, get up. Get up. XN, Harry's broom was in his hands in no time, a stroke of genius. The same is true for Aaron. Although he doesn't like magic brooms very much, he can't hold back his talent. As for the others, they will continue to try. The voices of getting up come and go. Some people have succeeded very quickly, such as Draco, and some people have tried more than 10 times, such as Hermione. There were also a few students who yelled, but the broom only shook slightly. Ron was even worse, and was directly hit in the face by the flying broom. After more than 10 minutes, all the students found the trick to call the broom and held it firmly in their hands. Professor Hooch walked among the students. Now, grab your broomsticks and ride on, hold on tightly, don't slip down. As soon as I blow the whistle, each of you kicks the ground vigorously into the air. You have to stabilize the broom. First hover for a while, then lean forward slightly, and return to the ground. Hear my whistle. 3, 2. The whistle blew, and before the other students moved, Neville's broom flew up involuntarily, and it seemed a little uncontrollable, shaking from side to side while constantly bobbing up and down. A moment later, Neville Longbottom flew into the sky on a broomstick in an exaggerated way under everyone's surprised or worried eyes, but everyone heard the word, help, clearly. Neville flipped and circled in various postures in the sky. His whole body was dizzy, but his hand firmly grasped the broom handle and did not let go, as if he was taming a fierce horse. However, his technique was obviously not very good. The broom led him to bump around on the walls of the castle, and then swoop down, splashing ripples on the lawn. Professor Hooch drew out his wand to stop Neville, but his flying speed was so fast that Neville flew past her before she had time to cast the spell. "How pathetic!" Aaron exclaimed. "Aaron!" Draco looked at Neville flying around in the sky, and couldn't help pulling Aaron's sleeve. "What happened? Maybe I'm reading it wrong, but that white, fluffy thing hanging in front of Neville's broom seems to be your pet." "What? Impossible. It's Abbe." Hermione also said with certainty. Aaron looked intently, and saw a white cat holding the broom at the top. Its 4 paws were tightly holding the broom, and there was no trace of panic on the face that could make everyone cute. On the contrary, he was very excited, which formed an extremely sharp contrast with Neville. People are not as good as cats, which is not too far-fetched. "I'm going." Aaron couldn't help but swear, and immediately chased after him on a broom. He wasn't worried that Abe would have problems flying, it was born with the ability to fly, but he was afraid that this dragon cub was having fun. What if the wings were exposed? It's only been a few days since school started. It was known that he had raised a dragon, but he was not mentally prepared for it. Aaron's speed was very fast, and compared to Neville Longbottom, who was constantly flying randomly, his goal was quite clear. After a little prediction of where the broom might fly in the next second, he jumped up, and the moment he touched Neville's broom, he stretched out his right hand and pulled Abe, who was riding on it, off. Then he lowered his head abruptly, dodging the impact of the spinning Neville. "Ha! It's dangerous." Aaron breathed a sigh of relief, then looked at Abe, who was embarrassed and covered his eyes with his front paws, and said angrily, "You worry-free guy, I will settle accounts with you later." When Aaron returned to the ground, Neville seemed to have had enough fun with his broom, and quickly flew over a sculpture above the castle. The spear in the sculpture's hand hooked Neville's wizard robe, hung it on it, and left the ground at least 20 meters. However, after a while, the wizard's robe couldn't bear Neville's weight and shattered. After a stab, Neville fell vertically. Fortunately, when he was still 20 feet above the ground, only half of his torn robes were hanging on the lampstand again, but there was no surprise in the end. The remaining half of the wizard robes couldn't bear Neville's weight, and after the sound of tearing, Neville continued to fall. Wingardium Leviosa, that when Neville was still a few centimeters above the ground, Aaron drew out his wand, and silently cast a levitation spell on Neville. Boom. A few seconds later, Neville fell to the ground, but because of the buffer twice, he did not suffer serious injuries. All the students turned their heads to look. They subconsciously thought that Professor Hooch had cast a spell. Professor Hooch looked at Aaron, but was surprised to find that his wand had been put away at some point, and he looked at her with the same astonishment as the other students. Professor Huichi was also a little dazed for a while, and suddenly felt that she had failed as a professor, and she had to rely on a freshman to save face and avoid teaching accidents. Professor, I suggest you go and see Neville at this time. He may have suffered a slight injury," Aaron reminded. "Ah. That's right." Professor Huichi came to his senses and hurried to Neville to check it. Fortunately, it was just a few scratches, which would heal within 2 days at most. She turned her head to look at all the students. "Now everyone is staying on the ground obediently, and I will send Mr. Longbottom to the hospital. Understand, if I see a broomstick in the sky, the broomstick rider gets fired before he says he's playing Quidditch." Moaning, Neville walked towards the hospital with Professor Hooch's support. When he passed by Aaron, he paused and said thank you in a low voice. No one else saw Aaron cast a spell just now, but he was right in front of everyone, so he could see it quite clearly. Chapter 23: The Birth of a New Generation of Seekers. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Malfoy picked up a transparent ball that Neville dropped on the lawn, weighed it lightly, and said with a smile, "See his face. If the fat man pinches the ball, he will remember to land on his butt." Many students laughed, especially Slytherin. "Give me the ball, Malfoy," Harry said, walking over. "No, I'm going to hide it and let Neville find it," Malfoy said, then got on the broomstick and hovered for a while and flew into the sky. "What's the matter, Potter? Is it out of reach?" Harry glared at him, grabbed his broom and rode on. He just wanted to take off when Hermione stopped him. "Harry, this is absolutely impossible," Mrs. Hooch said just now, "and besides, you don't know how to fly yet." Harry ignored it, kicked the ground hard, and flew straight to Malfoy. What an idiot. Hermione said speechlessly. Another wizard with a talent for flying. Aaron looked up at this scene, feeling a little emotional in his heart. Aaron, stop watching, let Malfoy come down quickly, he should listen to what you say. Hermione, you may have misunderstood something, didn't you also persuade Harry just now, did he listen? This. Yes. He is my friend, not my servant, for the sake of my friend, he may listen to my advice, but in fact I have no right to order him to do anything. Aaron explained patiently. But, they. Hermione looked at the two people riding brooms high in the sky, with a little worry on her face. It's okay, this can only be regarded as a prank among the students at best, and Professor Huichi is just scaring people. The old god Aaron said, if the teacher would be expelled for such a trivial matter as not using the flying broom in the flying class, there may be less than half of the students left in Hogwarts now, and among the expelled students, Gryffindor, who likes pranks the most, definitely can account for more than half. Furthermore, one of the two people riding the broom is the son of a member of the board of directors, and the other is the boy who survived the catastrophe in the prophecy. Dumbledore will not fire them. Whoever is fired. After a while, Harry stabilized the broom and stopped opposite Malfoy. Give it to me quickly, or I'll beat you down. The tone is not small. Harry didn't talk nonsense, and went straight to snatch it, but just as he was about to touch the memory ball, Malfoy grabbed the broom and made a 360-degree spin, dodging it perfectly. As soon as Harry turned the broom around, Malfoy turned his head and threw the memory ball in his hand provocatively. Then just figure it out, say it. Malfoy threw the memory ball into the distance forcefully. Harry's pupils were slightly dilated, and he controlled the broom to speed up and chase after it. Seeing this scene, Aaron frowned slightly, but Draco's approach was a little too much. The brat is too used to it, and it will probably take a lot of effort to break it back. Harry's talent in flying is quite good. Although it was the first time he used the magic broom, he used it extremely skillfully. He caught the memory ball when it was about to hit the castle wall. It was a coincidence that this scene happened to be captured by Professor McGonagall, who was working, because if Harry didn't catch the memory ball in time, it would just land in Professor McGonagall's office. After Harry landed on the lawn with the memory ball, the Gryffindor students ran over cheering, praising Harry for a good job. While they were cheering, Professor McGonagall walked over quickly and gave Harry Potter a deep look. Harry Potter, come with me. Draco and his two followers laughed sarcastically when they saw Harry shrugging his head and following Professor McGonagall. Is it funny? Aaron asked. Of course, this is what Harry Potter asked for. Maybe he will be fired tomorrow. Draco laughed, and he was already thinking about how to celebrate when he went back. I'm afraid I'm going to disappoint you. It's just a small problem. Professor McGonagall is the Dean of Gryffindor, and he will not expel students from his own college for this reason. Said Aaron, pouring cold water on Malfoy's agitated heart. Humph. That can only be said to be his luck. Perhaps. But you really shouldn't be throwing Neville's, remember. Aaron said seriously. What do you mean? Malfoy frowned. What did Mr. Snape say about Harry Potter in class at the time? Fame is not enough. As one of the 28 sacred families, the Malfoy family has always been a representative of pure blood. In other words, the reputation of your Malfoy family is no worse than that of Harry Potter. This is the reputation your family has accumulated over thousands of years, and what you did just now is tantamount to discrediting the family. Although it is trivial for Draco to throw Neville's memory ball, what if Draco is changed to be the heir of the Malfoy family? Those who knew it thought you were a prank, but those who didn't know thought you were bullying others. Oh, yes, I remember that the Longbottom family seems to be one of the 28 sacred families. Malfoy froze for a moment, then fell silent. He had never thought about this before. For the first time, Draco, who had always been pampered, felt the other things that fame brought him, the pressure. Thinking of this, Malfoy suddenly became a little apprehensive. Understood, I won't do these things again in the future. Just understand. Aaron was very satisfied with his deceit, but it was not a deceit. The pureblood family should indeed defend the family's honor, and there was nothing wrong with that. On the other side, Harry was brought to the door of the Defense Against the Dark Arts classroom by Professor McGonagall. "Wait here," Professor McGonagall said to Harry, and walked in by himself. "Professor Quirrell, excuse me, can I have a word with Wood?" Professor Quirrell, who was holding a large chameleon and giving lectures to the students, suddenly trembled. After he understood it, he nodded immediately, yes, of course. A senior boy with a Gryffindor badge pinned to his wizard robe followed Professor McGonagall out of the classroom. Professor McGonagall took him to Harry Potter and explained, "Potter, this is Oliver Wood. Wood, I got you a seeker." "What the hell?" Harry Potter looked confused. Shouldn't he be punished? Why did he suddenly become a seeker? Also, is it really appropriate for him to be a seeker who doesn't even know what a seeker is? But seeing the excited Professor McGonagall and Wood, he wisely didn't say what was in his heart. The fact that Harry Potter had become the seeker for the Gryffindor Quidditch team hadn't been hidden for long at all, and the whole school knew about it by evening. It is reasonable to say that first-year freshmen are not eligible to participate in a Quidditch competition, but this is nothing to Professor McGonagall, the head of Gryffindor who loves Quidditch very much. She went straight to Dumbledore, making him an exception very easily. This may be because Dumbledore also graduated from Gryffindor, and Gryffindor has not won the House Cup for a long time. A Quidditch champion can add a lot of points to the house. After dinner, Ron and Harry walked in the corridor. Both of them looked very excited. "Seekers? The Academy team has never had a freshman. You must be the youngest player." "Yes, and the youngest in a century," Professor McGonagall said. "She asked me to participate in training next week." The twin brothers George and Fred did not know when they appeared behind them, and one of them said excitedly, "Great, Harry, Wood told us." "Fred and George are on the team, batsman," Ron explained. Another twin said, "It's our job to make sure you don't get beaten all over the place." "But it can't be all right, Quidditch is brutal." "It's cruel, but no one has ever died. Occasionally someone disappears after a game, but reappears after a month or two." Hearing this, Harry's face changed slightly. He didn't know that this sport, which is loved by almost all magicians, has such a big risk. Is it too late to quit now? It must be too late. After all, it has been rumored and everyone knows it. Once you propose to withdraw from the team, it is tantamount to losing your face. Ron noticed the expression on Harry's face and persuaded, "Come on. Harry, Quidditch is exciting, the most exciting, and you are the best." "But I've never played Quidditch. What if I make a fool of myself?" Harry said worriedly. Hermione, who was reading a book, came over and said with a smile, "You won't make a fool of yourself. You have a genetic talent." Saying so, she took the two of them to the Quidditch monument in Gryffindor, on which James Potter, Harry Potter's father's name, was engraved, and he served in the college team at his seeker. Chapter 24 Fighting in the Ring. Snape wants to draw a pie. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Severus Snape's studio. Aaron didn't know why he called himself over, and kept him waiting for almost 20 minutes, however, he was worthy of being a master of potions. The shelves in the room were full of glass bottles and jars. Most of the rare potion ingredients that were missing in the market could be seen here, not just materials, there are even quite a few finished potions here. Oh! Professor Snape put things so clearly, he will definitely be thieves in the future. As long as these items can be taken out of the school, they will definitely sell for tens of thousands of galleons, and it will not be a problem for 3 to 5 years. Aaron said to himself. After he finished speaking, he suddenly felt a chill on his neck, and a long reflection was reflected on the wall. From the style of the robe and the hair around his ears, it was not difficult to guess who it was. He. "Teacher, I'm telling the truth, don't you have any traps here?" "Stop being silly." Snape glared at him, and sat down at the desk. "Do you know why I called you here?" "How do I know?" Aaron said speechlessly. If he knew, why would he come here? "You know Harry Potter became Gryffindor's seeker." "I know. The whole Hogwarts is buzzing, but what does it have to do with me?" "I want you to be seeker for the Slytherin house team." "I refuse." Aaron said immediately, with a particularly firm tone, "Playing a game, what a joke, this kind of thing that stands out in front of everyone should belong to the savior Harry Potter, he has no such interest. Moreover, the Quidditch competition is still dangerous. If he accidentally shakes a hand and maims a student, he will probably have to pay a large amount of medical expenses. Perhaps this is an opportunity for others to express themselves and an honor, but in his view it is a thankless task. Why? You have this talent. Snape was a little surprised, because there were almost no students who didn't like Quidditch, and he could guarantee that no one would refuse any one of the freshmen, but what he didn't expect was that Aaron was one of the few students who were not interested in Quidditch. It was fine to let him watch the game, let him compete, haha. I just simply don't want to participate. What if I lose the game? If you're really looking for a seeker, I think Draco Malfoy would be a good fit, and to play Harry in a fair and square way, he'd definitely be looking for it. Really? He recommended you to me. Want to know why? He said he wasn't sure about catching a cat on a scurrying broomstick. Snape sneered, and then glanced at Abe with interest. And your cat gives me a very different feeling, very different. Just being close to it will give me a warm feeling. Abe shrank back, and Aaron immediately hugged it in his arms. An illusion, this is definitely an illusion. Humph. Is it an illusion? You know better than me. Snape sat up straight. At present, you are the most suitable. Ha! Aaron curled his lips in disdain. Professor Snape, I respect you very much, very special respect, but you don't like Harry Potter. There's no need to pull me out to fight him. And I think this is particularly unfair to Slytherin's original seeker. We Slytherins also have to be principled, and we can't ignore the mood of the students just because of the dean's personal emotions. Don't worry about this, I have talked with Terence specifically, and he will cooperate well. As long as you can prove that he is strong, it is a matter of Slytherin's honor, and he will not refuse to give up the position of seeker. Aaron froze for a moment. This Terence should be Slytherin's seeker. Professor, you are really tall enough. However, the student in the mood of the student I am talking about is actually me. You can't force a student to participate in a Quidditch match that he doesn't want to participate in. Hey! How can this be called coercion? Snape said flatly, I just gave you a chance to be honored. This should be preference. Aaron, whoever likes this kind of preference wants whoever wants it. In short, I don't want it. Isn't it to prove better than the original seeker? Let's add a little water at that time, and I don't believe that we can still enter the academy team. Snape obviously also noticed Aaron's thoughts, and said lightly, that's the matter, so behave well. Otherwise, I think it is necessary to remind the principal that pets should not be allowed in such a sacred place as the classroom. You. Aaron smiled wryly. Professor Snape, it's impossible. Even if Harry is talented, he is only a first-year freshman, and he may not be better than Terence. Why not? I don't know Potter's level, but I still know Professor McGonagall. If Harry Potter is not capable enough, McGonagall Minerva will not choose him as a seeker. This is because she didn't abide by the rules first, so why can't I just change the general? I just want to prove that Slytherin students are better than Gryffindors. She has Harry Potter in her freshman, and I have Aaron Gaius in my freshman. Aaron raised his eyebrows, not expecting Snape to have such high expectations of him. Actually, it's not bad for me to be a seeker, but is there any advantage? Snape crossed his hands, looked at Aaron quietly, and said in a deep voice, the Quidditch points will be counted in the House Cup, so the gold content of the championship is self-evident, and you will be respected by all Slytherin students. Respect. The corner of Aaron's mouth twitched. What's the difference between this and an empty glove white wolf? Although he did have a mission related to the Academy Cup, Snape didn't know about it. I want him to do nothing without bleeding, dreaming. Professor, can we have some substantial rewards? Your way of deceiving children was useless when I was 3 years old, and I am more materialistic. Aaron said while looking at the finished potions on the shelf. The meaning was self-evident. The corner of Snape's mouth twitched slightly, and he stood up to block his sight. I'm a little curious. You are the heir of the Gaius family. You are no worse than the Malfoy family. You shouldn't be able to get what you want. That's what I said, but after I go to school, I don't want to bother my family with everything. Aaron said insincerely. After all, I don't want to, but no one knows what the reality will be. if you encounter troubles that you can't solve by yourself in the future, it is probably necessary to ask the family for help. At this time, he suddenly thought of Voldemort's remnant soul in the mission, and he couldn't help looking at Snape with more scrutiny. Being able to become the head of Slytherin House is definitely not bad. It should not be a problem to beat a remnant soul. If he can help at that time, then 1,000 magic points will be obtained. For some reason, Snape suddenly felt his scalp go numb, and asked coldly, "What are you thinking?" "Nothing. As long as you promise to help me unconditionally once before the end of this school year, I will agree to join the academy team. Of course I won't make it difficult for you, it's definitely within your ability." Snape's face slowly sank. "Aaron, are you bargaining with me?" "Well, you can understand it that way, and I will only participate in this Quidditch match, and I won't care about it after that. If you don't agree, forget it." Snape pondered for a few seconds, then nodded helplessly. "Okay. This is a deal, but you'd better beat Harry Potter in the ring, or you'll know the consequences." I know, to be honest, Professor, you are really contradictory. I have never met anyone as contradictory as you. You apologized to Harry Potter in the first potions class, although the way was particularly cryptic, but I could tell you cared about him. It's okay if you just don't want him to know, but after that, you target him everywhere, looking like you can't see him well. Can you tell me why?" "Get out," Snape yelled, pointing at the door. Aaron wanted to say something, but Snape's second words came over. "Don't make me say it a second time. Get out. Just get out." Aaron immediately got up and walked out. When Aaron was about to step out of the door, Snape suddenly said, "By the way, Mr. Gaius, you'd better not inquire about my affairs. It won't do you any good. Don't worry, my curiosity is not that strong, and I'm not interested in your past. Take it as my respect for you." After Aaron left, Snape smiled bitterly in the studio. What an annoying little wizard. Chapter 25 The Seniors of the Academy Team. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 7 o'clock in the evening, the Quidditch pitch. Today, Slytherin got the right to use the court, and the 7 members of the Academy team were waiting here. Among them, Terence, the Seeker, had a slightly ugly expression on his face, because his status was challenged by a well-known first-year student, but after all, it was a candidate personally recommended by Snape, and he couldn't refuse. So he could only speak with his strength. It is unbelievable that an 11-year-old boy who has never touched Quidditch can beat him, an experienced Seeker, without any training. A few minutes later, Aaron came, and Abe walked obediently beside him. Apart from them, Snape followed. Seeing this scene, the Academy team looked a little unnatural. If it was just Aaron, they would still be able to show off their strength, but with Snape as the headmaster, they could only cooperate honestly and dare not make any small moves. "Hi. Seniors and sisters, good evening." Aaron said hello, and then shook hands one by one, showing great excitement. Although he didn't want this backdoor first-year freshman to join the Academy team, he didn't reach out to hit the smiling face. They were all so polite, even if they didn't want to, they could only respond obediently. After all, the Lord Dean was still here, and Snape's majesty in Slytherin was quite high. "It's almost there. Don't tell me that you specially asked me to come here just to see you have a friendly exchange with them," Snape said with a cold face. "Of course not." Aaron turned around and said, "I just came here to avoid trouble. Although I'm a freshman in Slytherin, I've been here for 2 weeks anyway, so I still know some things. Some of the students in Slytherin are very proud, the college team is even more arrogant, and breaking the rules of the game is commonplace. I don't think they will be very friendly to me as a freshman. If you don't find someone with a high enough status to come over to support the scene, I estimate that it will take about half an hour to deal with their difficulties, although I don't care, but one more thing is worse than one less thing." Snape heard the words, looked at the 7 people, and found that they were gnashing their teeth but dare not speak out. Their faces sank in an instant, and immediately scolded, "Look at the way you are now, what a shame for Slater." "I'm ashamed. Could it be that Slytherin really can't stand the challenge? I'm not asking him to directly replace Terence's position. Those who are capable go up and those who are mediocre go down. If you don't even have this confidence, then put down your magic broom as soon as possible and quit the Academy team, otherwise, it will prove that he is stronger than him." The 7 people were ashamed of being humiliated. In fact, it was not as serious as Snape said. It wasn't that they couldn't accept the challenge, it was just that they were a little bit dissatisfied, but facing the furious Snape, they didn't dare to say a word. Ahem. Professor Snape, it's almost over. Aaron said, they didn't mean to. As he said that, Aaron looked at the 7 seniors of the academy team, his expression full of apology. Don't worry everyone, I only participated in the Quidditch duel with Gryffindor this time, not to say really replace Senior Terrence, it's just that Dean Snape thinks that Gryffindor has changed a first-year seeker, and we Slytherins can't bully others, so we can only find me, a first-year freshman. To compete fairly with Harry Potter, I solemnly promise to everyone that I will quit the college team after this competition, and it will definitely not affect the friendship of my seniors and sisters, and I will never participate in the Quidditch competition organized by the school in the future. The 7 members of the academy team looked at each other in blank dismay, feeling a little overwhelmed for a while. I thought Aaron was the one who went through the back door, but I didn't expect there to be such a reason, and they are full of sincerity, not to participate in Quidditch in the future. What a determination it takes. In comparison, they seemed a little ashamed. It's just that few people didn't notice that there were already a few black lines on Snape's face, so if you don't want to participate in the competition, you don't want to participate, as for saying so high-sounding. But this guy is really not a fuel-efficient lamp. Just a few words made the proud Slytherin change his mind, and even had a good impression of him. Tut tut, the Gaius family really has successors. With this technology of talking nonsense with open eyes, at least it can make this family brilliant for decades. Ha! Stop talking nonsense. Snape said, and then looked at Aaron. The ability to pretend to be a tiger is very good, but the result will only be known after comparison. Professor Snape, I fully understand what you mean. Aaron said modestly, my strength may not be comparable to Senior Terrence, but at least I must be recognized by the academy team, otherwise I am not qualified to represent Slytherin for the match. Just know. Thank you, Professor, for your understanding, but before we officially start the competition, I have to make one thing clear. I usually have a lot of things to do, and I may not have much time to participate in training before the official competition. As soon as this was said, Snape and the academy team looked unhappy. Even if you have talent, you can't waste it like this. It's not the same thing if you don't practice before the game, it's really Quidditch. Don't push yourself any further. Snape said coldly. Professor, please listen to me first. What I mean is that I competed 3 times with my seniors. Seekers only need to focus on the snitch in the field, so it doesn't matter if they participate in practice or not, so I suggest that the first game is that there is only the snitch on the field, and whoever catches it first, Senior Terrence or I, will win. If I win by luck, it will prove that I have the ability to participate in this Quidditch match. The second game is also to catch the snitch first, but it is a little more difficult than the first game, and 2 bludgers are added to interfere. If I win by chance in this case, then prove that I didn't win the first game by luck, so that the seniors and sisters can also be convinced. As for the third game, it is better to catch the snitch first. In addition to adding the bludger, I also need to add the quaffle, and I also need to invite the seniors and sisters of the academy team to come down and attack me, but I can't use a bat. If I, an 11-year-old freshman, can still win, then. Aaron paused, looked at everyone on the academy team with a smile. Don't disturb my study before the game, and do you want to challenge our entire team alone? Captain Marcus interrupted him unhappily, which was a naked provocation. Hey! Of course not, how can you say that? I just want to simulate the scene of the game as much as possible. You. Just as Marcus was about to say something, Snape stopped him with a look. He looked at Aaron. What else? The other thing is that you can't foul during the official game. Aaron said seriously, after all, it doesn't mean to win if you foul. Although I don't foul, I don't want to hear that Slytherin wins by fouling. Of course, seniors and sisters don't have to agree to the third game. The first 2 games are fine, but don't ask me to train before the official game. I promise. Of course I have to agree. Why not agree? Marcus said with a sneer, but I promise you will regret it. Very well, then ask Professor Snape to be a witness. Everyone looked at Snape, who was dressed in black, and he looked at Aaron with a gloomy face. "Are you sure you want to do this? They may not be merciful." "Sure, but..." "But what?" "But when I called for help, Professor, you must save me." Aaron said righteously. The corner of Snape's mouth twitched. "So you know you're afraid too?" "Nonsense, otherwise, why would I call you here? I really thought it would be enough to hold up the scene." "Then the gold content of you as the dean is too low." Hearing Aaron's confident tone, Snape nodded blankly while turning dark, and then looked at the academy team who were ready to go, ready to give Aaron an impressive lesson at any time, and said indifferently, "I agree it's been 3 games, but you must not be polite to me. I will take care of it when it comes to critical moments." The 7 members of the academy team looked at each other and nodded in unison. Chapter 26 Isn't it 1 verses 7? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Aaron and Terence sat on broomsticks, parked on the east and west sides of the field. The golden snitch was taken out by Snape. It flapped its wings and moved up, down, left, and right in the field at high speed. It was not easy to find it in the twilight. 10 seconds later, the sound of buzzing rang in Aaron's ears, and he subconsciously stretched out his right hand to grab it, but he didn't grab anything. The speed of the golden snitch is not covered, it is only a little slower than a broomstick, and it dodges when Aaron reaches out, and his actions also caught Terence's attention. After spotting the golden snitch, he immediately controlled the broom and flew over. Seeing this, Aaron spread his hands, gave him a harmless smile, and turned around decisively to chase after the snitch. There is still an advantage in being close, although this advantage is not worth mentioning in Quidditch, and even in a blink of an eye. Passed away, unless the golden snitch flies in a straight line, the opponent can catch up in a few seconds, and it is almost impossible to catch a golden snitch with no rules in the trajectory within these few seconds. The golden snitch began to circle around the court, and Aaron followed closely behind. No matter how tricky its flying angle was, he could keep up with it, and kept getting closer. When everyone saw this, although they didn't want to admit it, there was indeed a certain gap between Terence's flying skills and Aaron's. Terence also noticed this, so he temporarily changed his tactics. Instead of chasing from behind, he temporarily predicted a direction and blocked in front of the golden snitch. But his sudden appearance made the golden snitch's speed noticeably paused. Although it was a ball that he didn't want to be caught by, but it was such a small pause that a big hand behind him grabbed him in the palm of his hand. Terence stared blankly at this scene, then slammed his arms twice after breaking to vent his anger. "Sorry, Senior," Aaron said modestly. "It seems that I won by luck this time." Terence hummed, turned around and returned to his seat without saying anything. Aaron also threw the snitch to Snape. "Professor, it's almost time for round 2. Don't you need to take a break?" Snape asked. "Quidditch matches are very exhausting. Although this is not an official match, 3 matches in a row is not enough for ordinary people." "I don't need it," Aaron said, and then looked at Terence opposite. "I just don't know Senior Terence." "You don't need it, and neither do I." Seeing how resolute the two were, Snape nodded slightly, then walked to the center of the field and opened the box containing the bludger. Out of it popped 2 black iron bludgers, 10 inches in size, always trying to knock players off their brooms during games. The golden snitch was active again. Snape raised his wand, and a ball of fireworks ignited in the air. After the signal to start the game appeared, the expressions of Aaron and Terence became serious. If it was just the snitch, they wouldn't be so nervous, but with 2 more aggressive bludgers, they can't help but be careless. This is not a serious game, there is no batsman to block the ball for them, and they have to avoid them in the process of catching the golden snitch, otherwise they will be hit by these 2 iron balls. At least they will break their bones. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The sound of breaking through the air continued to sound in the stadium, and the bludgers flew around irregularly. Aaron and Terence also began to look for the golden snitch. Aaron found it 1 step ahead of Terence, but this time his luck was not very good. The golden snitch was closer to Terence. The chase soon began, and the flying angle of the golden snitch was still so tricky, sometimes walking around the wall in the court, sometimes speeding up and diving down, sometimes drilling into the pillars and bouncing up and down, using the wooden stakes of the high platform to block the 2 behind. Seeker, in short, it will come as you can get rid of the seeker. These are a kind of test for the seeker's skills. If the cognition of one's own flying ability is not accurate enough, and one is eager for quick success, it is likely to cause accidents. Terence can act as a seeker. His skills can be considered excellent, but they are not good enough, compared with Aaron. He is too careful, or he is a little afraid of getting hurt. At the beginning of the game, he could still focus most of his attention on the snitch. After a period of chasing, his pressure gradually began to increase, especially the sound of the bludger hitting the building. I was shocked, and when Aaron caught up with him, he obviously put more energy on the bludgers, because the two bludgers put the targets together, and the danger doubled. The feeling of the ball flying past against the scalp is not ordinary. Finally, after a few minutes, Aaron won and caught the snitch. Snape immediately took out his wand and stopped the two bludgers to prevent them from flying around after the game. Snapped, snapped, snapped. Snape applauded expressionlessly. It was a very exciting match. So, do we need a third match? As soon as his words fell, everyone in the academy team couldn't wait to fly into the arena, and Marcus gave Aaron a provocative look. In the first two games, they had already recognized Aaron's ability, but in this last game, they couldn't let Aaron win anyway, otherwise they would lose all face. Think about it, the dignified Slytherin house team, with 7 players, was actually laid down by a freshman in the first year. "Wait, Professor, I'm asking for a 10-minute break," Aaron said, holding up his hand. "Huh?" Snape sneered, with the corners of Snape's mouth raised slightly. "You won't be brave this time." Aaron smiled embarrassingly. "I'm still very self-aware. In the first 2 games, Senior Terence played against me alone. I was tired and he was tired too, which is fair, but what I have to face next is the entire academy team. If I don't adjust my state properly, I will probably lose miserably." "Humph. You've already proven your abilities, and it's too late for you to regret it now. It doesn't really matter if the third game is better or not." Slytherin students still have a sense of shame. If 7 fight 1, they will definitely win, but this is much worse than bullying. "So, it's just us guys on the pitch. As long as I don't say it, the professor doesn't say it, and they don't say it, no one will know, right?" Aaron laughed. Snape pondered for a few seconds, looked at Aaron with more appreciation. "You have 10 minutes, after 10 minutes, start the next round." "Thank you, Professor." Aaron laughed, then flew down, took out a lollipop from Abbe's pocket, unwrapped it, and put it in his mouth. "Ahem." Snape stared at Aaron with a strange expression. "Mr. Gaius, don't you know that the untraceable stretching curse cannot be used casually?" "The untraceable stretching curse?" Aaron looked at the candy in his hand and the aggrieved Abe, thinking carelessly in his heart, but he pretended to be dazed. "Professor, I think you misunderstood. There is no traceless stretching charm on its clothes. It is purely used to hold snacks, but what you said just now does have merit, and I have decided to send a letter to my family tomorrow to prepare a piece of clothing for Abe with the no trace stretching curse cast on it." Snape's complexion darkened slightly, and he simply turned his face away. 10 minutes later, Aaron flew above the court and confronted the somewhat embarrassed but extremely determined academy team. Following Snape's signal to start, the snitch and 2 bludgers appeared on the field at the same time. Aaron didn't immediately look for the snitch, but instead focused on the 6 academy players except Terence. After all, for him, the third game was the most difficult one and also the most dangerous one. Terence can slowly find the snitch, but he is not so easy. In addition to snatching the snitch, he also needs to guard against the siege of the 6 seniors, and the only thing he can use in this difficult game are 2 flying and unrecognizable bludgers. After the game started, Aaron's tactics were very clear, just one word. While trying his best to avoid the encirclement and suppression of the academy team, he destroyed Terence as much as possible to catch the golden snitch. During this process, he always used the 2 bludgers as teammates, and often led them to other people. It's dangerous, however, under this old-fashioned, rogue, dangerous and even stupid tactic. Aaron carried it for more than an hour, and even used the bludger to knock Marcus off the broomstick. The captain was pitiful enough. He wanted to block Aaron, but in the end he blocked 2 bludgers that attacked him. This move made Aaron feel that he misjudged the person. The captain was still very considerate, cursing, but physically honest, blocked 2 bludgers for him. a new player who has not yet officially joined the team. It was the first time in his life that he saw such a good senior. Chapter 27 Boys should be hard on himself. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Relying on the tactics of killing, enemies and losing, Aaron and the academy team fought fiercely for more than an hour, and finally got the golden snitch one step ahead of Terence, at the cost of his right arm being broken by a bludger. He shrugged and stretched one arm, and exhaustedly controlled the broom to fly to the bottom of the court. His tense spirit suddenly relaxed, and he almost failed to stand still, and staggered and sat on the lawn below. Abe rushed over immediately, looked at him worriedly, then turned around, showing a fierce expression to the 6 players who flew down one after another. This was the first time it got angry, and several fangs protruded from its mouth, and the sides of its clothes were stretched a little. When Aaron saw this, he pressed his left hand on its back, and silently shook his head at Abe, who turned his head, telling him not to show his wings. "I'm sorry. Seniors, it seems that I won this game by luck again." Aaron endured the pain in his arm, gritted his teeth and showed a smile. "Everyone, don't forget our bet, don't call me participate in training, and you can't foul during the official game." That everyone in the academy team didn't speak, and even the mighty Marcus kept a rare silence. Even if they didn't want to admit it, they all lost to this first-year freshman tonight. There is only one reason: not as ruthless as him. After Marcus was shot down, the remaining 6 players were shocked and angry, and immediately stepped up their retaliation. Originally, I just wanted to beat Aaron after I had had enough fun, but they didn't expect this guy to be much more difficult than they thought, trying to survive in the cracks repeatedly, and when they all started to feel tired in the later stage, they were a little powerless to stop him. In this way, he gradually had the opportunity to chase the golden squid. Although there was not much time, it was much better than preventing Terence from catching it at the beginning. "That's fine, it's a waste of energy, whoever fails first loses," including Terence and the others. There are 6 of them. No matter how you look at it, the odds of winning are several times that of Aaron. There are no conditions for losing, but who would have thought that the opponent would not play according to the routine? In the last few seconds before the end of the game, the golden snitch and the 2 bludgers got very close. As a seeker, Terence was also a little timid in the face of this situation. He didn't dare to approach, so he could only follow closely behind. On the other hand, Aaron seized the opportunity and rushed over, grabbing the snitch under everyone's disbelieving eyes. No surprises, 2 bludgers attacked at the same time. Aaron narrowly avoided the first one, but was hit by the second one on his right arm, and the sound of the fracture was very clear on the court. But he didn't make a sound, and decisively stretched out his left hand, caught the golden snitch, and won the match. Putting themselves in their shoes, they don't have that kind of guts, because this is just an ordinary game. No, this is not even an ordinary game. They have no reason to take risks, even on really big games. Okay, nor did they have the guts to pay the price of an arm for a small chance of victory, but Aaron did just that, and it succeeded. After more than 2 hours of the game, they don't think that Aaron has no brains and will only grab the ball with a rush of momentum. Clearly, he had figured out what the cost would be before he did so. Is this really 11 years old? Do you want to be so hard on yourself? Through this crazy move, these 7 pretentious Slytherins also know that Aaron is not something they can afford. "Since you don't speak, I'll take it as your acquiescence." Aaron stood up slowly and said. "Don't worry, they'll keep their word," Snape said, and then he looked at Marcus. "Know what to do before the Quidditch match. You are the captain, I hope you can set an example. If you can't even complete this simple request, then don't call me a student of Snape Severus in the future." "Understood." Marcus nodded. He knew that in the future they would no longer be able to play side by side. If they wanted to achieve good results, they could only train hard. "Don't let me down," Snape said lightly, and then supported Aaron. "Your condition is not very good, I will take you to the infirmary first." "Okay. I feel like my arm is about to break." Aaron grinned in pain. "It's about to break. Mr. Gaius, you should be more confident, it's already broken." Aaron smiled bitterly. "Professor, if you are more reliable and save me in time, this incident will not happen." Hearing this, Snape's face became weird. "You hit it yourself, none of us thought of it, so I can't be held responsible." Besides, didn't you call for help? Okay. You are right in this matter, but I can't say no to you, but, Professor, you really don't know what humor is. When the two came to the infirmary, Madame Pomfrey walked over in a hurry. As an experienced school doctor, she knew what happened when she saw Aaron's arm, and said angrily, "How long has school started? A first-year kid playing Quidditch and breaking his arm." "Madame Pomfrey, I know better than you what's wrong with my student." Snape said flatly, "If you want to teach him a lesson, change the time. It's almost time for the curfew, and I don't want to send him to the waiting room again, so can I trouble you to treat him quickly and give him the fastest-acting medicine?" "Humph. Wait a minute," Madame Pomfrey said, then she went to a shelf beside her to take out a small bottle of red medicine, and handed it directly to Aaron. "Drink it, and then rest for a night. It should be almost done, but for the next 2 days, it's best not to use your right arm too much, or you might have to do it again." "Understood," Aaron said sincerely, without hesitation. He grabbed the bottle and drank it in one gulp. "The taste of this medicine is weird, bitter and astringent, extremely unpleasant to drink, but the effect is also immediate." Not 10 seconds after drinking, Aaron felt a warm feeling on his arm. The pain was covered by a light itching, and he could even do some light activities. "Need a bandage for your arm?" Madame Pomfrey asked. "This is unnecessary. If you don't want to go to the waiting room, you can recuperate in the infirmary for 2 days. I believe Professor Snape will prepare a note for you." Aaron was a little moved. After all, he was injured, and it would be great to be able to take 2 days of sick leave. There are no particularly important ones in the first-year courses, and most of the knowledge can be obtained from books, but looking at these empty white hospital beds, I always feel a little weird at night. Although there is no shortage of ghosts in Hogwarts, this environment really affects people's mood, and the beds in the dormitory are much more intimate. "Thank you very much for your advice, Madame Pomfrey. However, I don't want people to know that I'm hurt. Besides, I don't have any serious problems now, so I won't delay my class." Madame Pomfrey smiled. "Okay. Little wizard, since you are so assertive, then I won't keep you. There are still 10 minutes before the curfew, and you still have time to go back." "Understood," Aaron said, then got up and walked towards the door. What he didn't expect was that Snape's paralyzed face actually sent him all the way to the door of the lounge without saying a word. It can be seen that he cares about the students very much, but he is extremely bad at expressing himself. "Professor, if you don't always put on a cold face, you will definitely be more popular than anyone else," Aaron said meaningfully. "Oh. Do you think I care about you?" "No kidding, I was just worried that you got lost, or didn't make it back to the common room in time." If Filch caught him, it would be Slytherin's face. Yes, you are a professor, you are right," Aaron said hastily, and then made a gesture of invitation, but not to the inside, but to the side passage. After all, this is the students' common room. If he invites the serious Snape in, it is estimated that many students will have nightmares tonight. Snape hummed and left with a blank expression. Aaron read the password, opened the door, and walked lightly to his dormitory, but he happened to meet Malfoy, and he looked at Aaron with the word fatigue written on his face unexpectedly. "What are you doing here? Why did you come back so late?" Aaron glared at him. "Thanks to you, Professor Snape wanted me to join the academy team, so he pulled me over for the academy team test. More than 2 hours, I'm almost exhausted." Malfoy's eyes dodged. He was embarrassed and looked forward to it at the same time. "You must have passed the test." "Of course, the seniors on the house team have all agreed to let me be Slytherin's seeker." "Great," Malfoy said excitedly. "With your help, Harry Potter will definitely be defeated." "Aaron, how much does this brat hate Harry Potter?" "But forget it, we are all 11-year-old children, so let's take it as a joke." "Ahem. I'll talk about this later. You must keep the fact that I am the Slytherin seeker a secret. I don't want too many people to know before the official match." "Don't worry, my mouth is always the strictest," Malfoy assured, patting his chest. For some reason, seeing his swearing appearance, Aaron felt that he couldn't keep a secret anymore. Chapter 28 Voldemort's Object of Attachment. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Soon more than a month passed, and the time came to Christmas Eve. Today's defense against the dark arts class is taught by Slytherin and Ravenclaw together. Professor Quirrell was still wrapped in a thick purple turban, holding a large chameleon, stumbling about the theory of the defense against the dark arts class. Although his speech speed is unique, this class is quite interesting compared to the boring astronomy and history of magic. Especially the history of magic. I don't know what the school thinks, but actually invited a ghost to class. Although the experience of ghosts is much higher than that of living people, the brains of ghosts who are in charge of teaching are not very bright, and they can get off topic halfway through the lecture. Professor Quirrell's condition seems to be not very good. He is weaker than usual, and he feels like he is recovering from a serious illness. This is the professor's private matter, and Aaron is not interested in knowing what happened to him, but there is one thing that makes him more concerned, that is, when Professor Quirrell was pacing to Aaron's side in the classroom, Abe, who had been napping on the table, suddenly stood up. It stood on the table with 4 legs and grinned at Professor Quirrell, while its eyes were fixed on his turban. Guy. Mr. Gaius, what's wrong with your cat? Quirrell asked nervously, but his body took a step back involuntarily. Aaron immediately picked up Abe, and said with some embarrassment, Professor, my cat has been eating garlic recently, and the smell on your body is really too strong. Aaron didn't believe what he said. The defense against the dark arts class is held twice a week. It's been such a long time since the class started. At least a dozen or so classes have been taken in this class, but Abe didn't perform like this before. The most important thing is that our cats never eat garlic. Yes, is it? Quirrell swallowed, looking at the ferocious cat that might pounce on him at any time. I'm really sorry, so I should stay away. This is not suitable. Aaron smiled wryly, and then hugged Abe to the other corner of the table. It's better to keep it away. As the distance between them widened, one person and one dragon seemed to have returned to normal. Abe still held a trace of hostility, but Aaron inadvertently noticed a flash of light in Professor Quirrell's eyes. The cold eyes with strong killing intent made his body tremble subconsciously. Fuck, Professor Quirrell is definitely not simple, at least not as submissive as he seems on the surface, or his submissiveness is all fake. There is definitely something wrong with this guy, otherwise he wouldn't be so disgusted by Abe, who has divine attributes. Suddenly, Aaron seemed to think of something. Professor Quirrell could not be the object of Voldemort's possession. This possibility is not impossible, even very high. Thinking of this, Aaron felt that his back was soaked in sweat, and then adjusted his state instantly. If this conjecture is correct, then he must not let Quirrell see his strangeness, otherwise he may have to face Voldemort in advance up. Although Voldemort's purpose is to steal the Sorcerer's Stone, and he will never expose himself easily before his purpose is achieved, but he is not afraid of just in case. Fortunately, Quirrell put most of his attention on Abe, who was harmless to humans and animals, and didn't pay much attention to Aaron. He didn't notice the rich expressions on his face in just 2 seconds. Variety. Aaron's psychological quality is quite good. Before the end of get out of class, he behaved normally and left the classroom without any risk. I was scared to death. I thought Quirrell would keep me. Aaron thought with some fear, but he felt relieved. As long as Quirrell has no doubts this time, he has enough confidence that he will not show any flaws when facing Quirrell next time. As for now, it is better to let nature take its course. The class in the afternoon was Charms class. After a long period of basic study, Professor Flitwick was finally willing to teach new students charms. In the classroom, Gryffindor and Slytherin students were sitting on the left and right sides, each with a white feather on their desks, and Professor Flitwick, who was as big as a dwarf, was standing among the piles of books lecture above. As a magician, one of the basic skills is levitation, which is the ability to make objects fly. Did you all get the feathers? Hermione immediately raised her feathers, giving Professor Flitwick a good look. Very good. Now, don't forget the wrist movement we've been practicing. First wave and then shake, come together. Professor Flitwick drew out his wand to demonstrate to everyone as he said. You have to recite the spell clearly, Wingardium Leviosa, practice it. All of a sudden, the students in the classroom began to wave their wands and cast spells on the feathers in front of them. Aaron smiled and shook his head. He knew these simple spells a few years ago, and Abe used this floating spell to fly a kite when he was just an egg. I saw him waving his wand lightly, without even saying a spell. The white feathers floated up and flew slowly to the ceiling before stopping. Everyone stopped what they were doing and quietly watched the feather floating in the air. While marveling at Aaron's talent, they couldn't help feeling a little more frustrated. "Great, everyone, look here, Mr. Gaius has succeeded," Professor Flitwick said excitedly. Then everyone tried harder, and Ron chanted the spell, but he obviously forgot the movement of his wrist, and the wand kept flicking, and there was a rustling sound in the air. "No, stop, you're going to poke someone's eyes." Hermione, who was sitting next to him, interrupted him immediately. "Besides, you mispronounced it too, it's Leviosa, not Leviosa." "You're so smart, so give it a try," Ron said unconvinced. Hermione didn't say much, just picked up the wand, and shook her wrist briskly. "Wingardium Leviosa." That the next moment, another feather flew into the air. Ron was dumbfounded, and pouted on his textbook. The third one to succeed was Draco Malfoy, but he looked at Hermione full of dissatisfaction. Although he was the third one to succeed, the gap between him and Aaron and Hermione was still slightly larger a little bit. Both of them had one success, but he had tried no less than 5 times. "Your first use of learning this spell is pretty good," Aaron comforted. "But Draco, your talent is quite good, but Hermione spends all her time reading books except for eating, going to class and sleeping. If you can do it, you are no worse than anyone else." Malfoy froze for a moment, then looked at Hermione in astonishment, and murmured, "Why was she assigned to Gryffindor? Shouldn't she be in Ravenclaw? Who knows? Maybe she has a grit that outweighs her thirst for knowledge." After getting a barely plausible answer, Malfoy stopped talking, and silently turned his head to instruct his 2 followers to learn the spell. Boom! A bright light flashed suddenly, and the sudden loud noise startled everyone, and Professor Flitwick almost fell off the pile of books. Everyone looked at it together, and saw Simon's face was scorched black, sitting in a daze with a hedgehog head on his head, motionless as if he was frightened, looking at the feathers that had been reduced to ashes on the table. It was easy to guess what had happened. His deskmate Harry Potter was also affected, and half of his face turned black. "We still need a feather here, Professor Flitwick." Seeing this, Aaron shook his head silently in his heart. Simon's talent for magic spells is really not ordinary. If there were 10 explosions in the classroom, he was responsible for at least 5 of them. After class, Ron walked on the road with a dissatisfied expression on his face, and said to Harry, Simon, and a Gryffindor friend, "It's Leviosa, not Leviosa." "What a prick, I can't stand it, no wonder she doesn't have many friends." At this time, Hermione walked past quick Ron with the book in her arms and bumped him with her arm. Her complexion was not very good looking, and there was even a little sobbing in her voice. "I think she heard," said Harry. "So what, she doesn't have any friends?" Ron said with a look of resentment. Ahem. Aaron didn't know when he appeared behind them. "That sentence is wrong, at least I am her friend. Also, I would like to give you a little suggestion. If you don't want to lose Hermione as a friend, then go and apologize to her. You should also apologize to her. After all, it is not a good behavior to speak ill of people behind their backs." "Why?" Ron's eyes dodged a little, but after seeing the Slytherin costume on Aaron's body, he became more rigid. "I'm not wrong, and it's not our Gryffindor's turn to use Slytherin." "Oh. So you think so?" Aaron sneered. "At first I wanted to ease the relationship between you and Malfoy as much as possible, but now it seems that I may be thinking too much." After finishing speaking, Aaron left without looking back. Harry wanted to keep him for a while, but he opened his mouth and said nothing. Chapter 29 Trolls Haunt. I didn't expect you to have this habit. You are listening at novelfull.audio. As night fell, all the students came to the auditorium one after another to participate in the Halloween banquet. Tonight, the school specially made the ceiling a Halloween feature, and when you look up, you can see groups of low dark clouds slowly cruising in the dark purple light, and silver lightning flashes in the sky from time to time. The candles that were originally hung in the auditorium were also covered with a layer of pumpkins, and the flames inside were constantly flickering, adding a touch of festive color to the auditorium. Of course, this is not the main thing. The main thing is that the sumptuousness of today's dinner is already comparable to that at the beginning of school. Everyone enjoyed the food with relish, and the atmosphere was quite cheerful. At this time, Aaron noticed that Hermione was not on the long table in Gryffindor, and couldn't help frowning. "Aaron, what's wrong with you? Are you okay?" Draco asked. "It's okay." Aaron responded, then walked to Harry's side and asked in a low voice, "Why isn't Hermione here?" "I don't know, she didn't come to class in the afternoon." "I know." Neville, who was sitting on the side, raised his hand and said, "Barty said she refused to come out in the toilet, and said that Hermione hid in it all afternoon and cried." Aaron was stunned, and looked at Ron, who was eating happily, with some dissatisfaction. "Is it so difficult for you to apologize? Even if you don't apologize, can't you comfort her?" Ron shrugged helplessly, saying that she didn't expect Hermione to be so vulnerable. At this time, the door was suddenly pushed open, and Professor Quirrell ran in, shouting in panic while running, "Troll, it's in the basement, there are trolls in the basement." The two sentences attracted everyone's attention, and the students and the teacher stared at him blankly, unable to react. "Got it?" Professor Quirrell lowered his voice, then his body went limp and he passed out. The students looked at the Defense Against the Dark Arts professor lying on the ground, and their hearts were filled with panic for an instant, and they couldn't help shouting. Even the senior students were no exception. It was a troll, a magical creature that even adult wizards might not be able to deal with. There is such a giant monster roaming uncontrollably in the school, which means that their lives may be threatened at any time. It would be a lie to say that they are not afraid. Silence. Dumbledore stood up from the master seat, and the students who were about to run outside stopped in their tracks. It has to be said that the most powerful white mage of this century is still very prestigious, and 2 words calmed everyone down. "Please don't panic, now, prefects, lead the students of their respective colleges back to their dormitories. The teachers went to the basement with me." After the voice fell, order was restored in an instant, and the prefects of their respective colleges also stood up and organized the students to line up and leave in an orderly manner. The teachers looked serious, and followed Dumbledore to the basement. Snape rolled his eyes, and quickly walked to the side door while no one was paying attention, but when he was about to arrive, a white figure stood in front of him. "Get out of the way." Snape glared at Abe, and walked forward quickly. "Professor Snape, where are you going?" Snape turned his head and saw Aaron, with a hint of anxiety in his helplessness. "This has nothing to do with you, go back to your dormitory, that's where you should be going now." "No. It should have something to do with me at this time," Aaron said seriously. "Are you kidding?" Snape's face darkened. "I'm warning you one last time, stay out of the way." "I'm not blocking the way." Aaron picked up Abe unhurriedly, and said in a deep voice, "Do you remember what you promised me? Help me unconditionally before the end of this semester." Snape froze for a moment, hesitated for a moment and said, "Does it have to be now? I really have something urgent." Aaron nodded affirmatively, and then said, "I don't know how big your matter is, but Headmaster Dumbledore is not worried, so why should you care, but my matter is really urgent." In a word, Snape seemed to be awakened, and the anxious look on his face faded a little. That's right, that thing was incredibly important, and Dumbledore knew its value better than anyone. If something happened, the old guy would definitely be more anxious than himself, but he is so calm now that he is sure enough to ensure that there will be no mistakes in that thing. At least there will be no mistakes now. "All right, Mr. Gaius, what do you want me to do for you?" Aaron breathed a sigh of relief, and said with an embarrassed smile, "Professor, are you interested in going to the women's bathroom with me?" "Huh?" A strange smile appeared on Snape's ever-changing icy face, and the corners of his mouth twitched. "I may have misheard, what was the place you mentioned just now?" "The women's bathroom." "I really didn't expect you to have such a weird fetish. Is it really appropriate to let me know, or is it really right for you to waste this opportunity? You should know how important a favor from a potion master is. To be honest, as long as there are enough materials, I can even make a bottle of Felicia for you, and your family should have no shortage of these materials." Hearing this, Aaron became more and more embarrassed. "Don't get me wrong, our family doesn't have Felicia. No, I'm not a pervert." "Well, Hermione Granger didn't know about the troll coming out, she should be in the toilet now. Sometimes you're not afraid of 10,000, just in case, with my current ability, I am not sure enough to defeat the giant monster, but you can definitely. So, I can only ask you. Snape took a deep look at Aaron, not knowing what he was thinking, and finally heaved a long sigh. Let's go. Aaron nodded, and then led the way. On the other hand, Harry, who followed the prefect Percy to the dormitory, suddenly thought of Hermione's situation, persuaded his good friend Ron with a few words, and managed to avoid Percy's sight by mixing in the crowd. Then, the two rushed to the corridor on one side at a faster pace, intending to find and notify Hermione of the presence of trolls. In this way, the two groups of people rushed to the women's toilet one after another with the same purpose. Aaron and Snape were so close that they arrived first, and were very lucky to find a huge monster that was 3 to 4 meters high. The giant monster looked stupid, with bubbles on its nose, and 2 ragged and irreparable clothes on its gray-green body, which looks particularly eye-catching. It held a thick wooden stick in its hand, and dragged it slowly forward. An indescribable stench emanated from its body, and the two of them could smell it even if they were separated by more than 10 meters. If I had to describe it, it would be the smell of decades-old stinky socks, decades-old clothes, and decades-old swill. In short, it was not generally disgusting, and even Abe buried his nose under his clothes. With an unusually sensitive sense of smell, it felt that it had been greatly hurt. Ouch, it can't be such a coincidence. Aaron said with a wry smile. It's not a good idea for this giant monster to go anywhere, so why does it have to go to the women's restroom? It turns out that it's such a coincidence. Snape said with a sullen face. He was a little lucky to follow Aaron, otherwise Hogwarts might have a murder case. Professor, it's finally time for you to show your talents. Let's go, Snape Severus, let me see the strength of head Slytherin. Snape. Hearing you say that, I always feel weird. What time is it now? Don't worry about it. Anyway, Professor, if you slow down for a few seconds, the troll will be in the women's room. At that time, if we want to save people again, we will have to change the battlefield. Of course, if there are no accidents, I will definitely not enter the women's bathroom to hinder your heroic battle. Snape snorted, then glared at Aaron, pulled out his wand, stunning. A pale white light shot from the tip of the wand and hit the troll on the head. A spell made the giant with a low IQ stare at him, but after staggering around a few times, it didn't fall to the ground, but its footsteps became flimsy, and it staggered as it walked. This blow also attracted the troll's attention, and in a rage it turned and walked towards Snape and Aaron. Professor. Aaron pulled out his black wand and said with some disappointment, I can also do this level. Can you do it? If it doesn't work, I'll lure it away first, and you take the opportunity to go over and rescue him. Shut up. Snape said in a low voice, although this guy has a certain degree of magic resistance, it is only at the level of a high-level magician. In addition, it has almost no IQ, you can deal with it even if you are careful, let alone me. But it is the property of the school, if it is not necessary, it is better to capture it alive. At this moment, the troll also came up to the two of them, waved the wooden stick in his hand and smashed it down at the two of them without saying a word. All petrochemical. Snape and Aaron waved their wands at the same time, and 2 rays of light, one white and one blue, drove the troll back. Passed out. Just when it was about to stand up, 2 more curses were shot on its little head. This time the monster's magic resistance finally couldn't stand it anymore. Its eyes rolled twice, and it fell to the ground in a daze. Chapter 30. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Boom. A loud bang sounded in the corridor. Looking at this giant monster who could not hold it after only 5 spells, Aaron didn't feel any joy, but felt a bit of liver pain. The promised troll might not even be able to handle an adult wizard, to scare children. With this kind of combat power and extremely low IQ, as long as you know a few serious spells, you can kill it. It's a pity. I originally planned to use the card Snape in the confrontation with Voldemort's remnant soul, that is, Professor Quirrell, but now it's so confused. It's the same as using the King Bomb to suppress the opponent. What is the difference between 3? Oh. This is a big loss. Aaron said with a sigh. Snape's mood was completely opposite. This time he made a lot of money, ahem. Mr. Gaius, after this time, I don't owe you anything. I understand. Anyway, thank you, Professor, for your generous help. At this moment, Hermione came out of the women's toilet, and the first thing she saw was the giant monster lying in the doorway. Her eyes widened instantly, and then she let out a long scream. What? It's okay, Hermione. Aaron immediately comforted, it's okay. What's going on here? Hermione covered her heart and asked with some fear. It's like this. After listening, Hermione couldn't help but feel a little grateful, and then she was grateful to Aaron from the bottom of her heart. She couldn't beat the troll, and if Aaron hadn't come to rescue her, her life might be in danger, but what she didn't expect was that Professor Snape, who had always been at odds with Gryffindor, would come to rescue her, which made her a little confused. Thank you, Aaron. Hermione said, and then looked at Snape with a complicated expression. Thank you too, Professor Snape. Snape froze for a moment, then snorted softly, but the look in his eyes was more complicated than Hermione's. I didn't come here specifically to save you, I just simply fulfilled my promise. Snape said arrogantly, honestly, Miss Granger, should thank you, because what Mr. Gaius asked me to do, some simple ones exceeded my expectations. Aaron's eyes twitched. Professor, is it necessary? He didn't understand why a person who is obviously cold-faced and warm-hearted insists on making himself cold. Snape didn't answer, just took a deep look at the two of them, turned around and left. At this time, Harry and Ron also happened to run over, and happened to bump into Snape. Seeing these two Gryffindors, especially Harry Potter among them, Snape's mood changed instantly. Why are you two here? I remember that Dumbledore seemed to have said that all students should go back to the dormitory under the leadership of the prefect. Do you think that you can ignore the principal's words if you are so capable? Harry stammered, unable to say anything. The same is true for Ron. He doesn't like this professor very much, but he is also very afraid of this professor. They originally thought that it would be enough to just notify Hermione, but Snape would catch him. That's not bad luck anymore, it's pretty bad luck. Why don't you explain? Snape continued aggressively. We're here to notify Hermione of a troll at the school, Harry said boldly. Ah! Snapeara raised his tone, pointed at the troll lying beside him with a sneer. So you think you can beat that troll? Think about it, if Aaron and I hadn't arrived in time, I shouldn't need to remind you. You and Miss Granger will die at the hands of this monster. The two looked at the gigantic body of the giant monster, and lowered their heads involuntarily. Snape was quite satisfied with their attitude, and the corners of his mouth could not help but rise slightly, and then he said coldly, 5 points deducted from Gryffindor. You can't do this, Harry said immediately, with an indescribable anger on his face. This is 5 points, they haven't deducted so many points since the beginning of school. Yes, it is indeed biased. Snape nodded approvingly, and added, it should be 5 points deducted for each person, and 10 points deducted for the two of you. Of course, you can also protest, if you think your life is not as good as these 10 points. Harry and Ron looked at each other, but they were also speechless. No one would think that scores were more important than life. What about him? Ron pointed to Aaron, and said angrily, didn't Aaron come over too? Why doesn't he need to deduct points? Mr. Weasley, you know, I'm actually very glad you asked me that. Snape laughed, because I came with Aaron. Is that enough reason? Ron looked at Aaron, a Slytherin student, and at Snape, the Slytherin dean, and wanted to understand something. Yes, they took the professor with them to act together. To put it nicely, it is to think twice before acting. To put it bluntly, it is to think about my own life. This was not the case with him and Harry. They had sneaked in from the student ranks without telling anyone, and naturally there would be no one to protect them. The situation between the two of them can be called caring and chaos at a good level, but at a bad level it means that they have no brains. They are pure reckless people. Compare the two and make a judgment. But having said that, Ron was obviously still a little unconvinced. He was about to say something to refute, but he was stopped by Harry on the side, so he suppressed this thought. At this time, Professor McGonagall and Professor Quirrell also came over, and they were relieved when they saw that no students were injured. Professor McGonagall looked at Harry and Ron, and said sullenly, what happened? You two? No, you three better explain to me. Professor. Just when Hermione wanted to intercede for Harry and the others, Snape gave her a stare. Although she was a little aggrieved, she had to give the savior her face. Professor McGonagall, I think it's up to our Slytherin students to explain this matter. Mr. Gaius was always a good student, and I don't think he would bend the truth as some people do to avoid criticism. Snape said proudly, and at the same time did not forget to cast a gloating look at Harry and Ron. Okay then. Aaron, can you tell me what happened? Professor McGonagall asked. Aaron glanced at Harry and Ron, who were guilty, and then at Hermione, whose eye sockets were still wet and hadn't come out of the shock, and sighed slightly. Professor, today is Halloween, it's so late again, or else I'll explain it tomorrow. It doesn't matter to us three boys, but Hermione has been quite frightened and needs a good rest. Aaron. Snape was a little unhappy. This is a great opportunity to rub Gryffindor's face. Although this opportunity is not lacking usually, there are not many such big mistakes, let alone this one. But with Harry Potter involved, and making Harry cry, he, Snape, would be in a much better mood. Professor Snape, you have deducted 10 points from them just now. In other words, they have already received the punishment they deserve. Aaron said, noticing that the coldness on Snape's face did not decrease in the slightest. Immediately changed his words, I think it's better for them to admit their mistakes to Professor McGonagall in person. After all, there are only two of us who know about it. They probably won't lie either. Only then did Snape reluctantly agree, although Professor McGonagall's kindness would definitely not do anything to the two Gryffindors, but if he knew the truth, he would definitely lose his temper. This anger can only be felt by Harry Potter. And Ron Weasley bears. That being said, it's not unacceptable. Then give you a day to think about how to explain it to your headmaster. Snape said, and then left the corridor without looking back. You two, take care of yourself. Professor McGonagall gave Harry and Ron a cold look, and then looked at Hermione Granger with gentle eyes, who was the only freshman in Gryffindor. One can save her worry. Miss Granger, you must be terrified today. Go back and rest first. Thank you, Professor. Hermione nodded weakly. Go away. It's not dead yet. Professor Quirrell said resentfully. At this moment, the troll lying on the ground suddenly snored, which made the Professor of Defense Against the Dark Arts tremble. The three professors left one after another, while Aaron and the others walked slowly towards their dormitory. On the way, Hermione couldn't help asking, what agreement did you reach with Professor Snape? Hey! Speaking of this, I feel panicked. Aaron said helplessly. Hearing this, both Harry and Ron became interested, and looked at him curiously, hoping that he could talk about it in detail. Okay. But you must keep it secret. Professor Snape asked me to be the seeker for the Slytherin house team, and I agreed, but asked him to help me unconditionally once in this school year. Of course, it is within the scope of one's ability. So what you asked him to do was to come and save me? Hermione's face was a bit complicated. She knew that the favor she owed this time seemed to be a little bigger. Otherwise, I've also heard the legend of the troll. I was afraid I couldn't deal with it, so I asked Professor Snape for help. Now it seems that it is really unnecessary. I think I can clean him up by myself, but it is a waste of the favor of a potion master. Both Harry and Ron were taken aback by this, but they were worried about something else. Aaron became Slytherin Seeker, which meant he was Harry's Quidditch opponent, which was not good news.